America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, and so on and so forth, workers really worked out their head. They worked hours. They worked in the factories. They worked 24/7. They worked to deliver things. Now, many of them had their children not going to school. They were really poor. They had nothing to show for all they were doing. And all of that was recognized by different government of different countries. Now they celebrated, particularly, I think it was the day of declaration. I'm not so very sure of that. But what is generally accepted globally is that 1st of May is a Workers' Day. Now, bringing it to Nigeria, mostly Workers' Day is very popular in Nigeria, and the people you see march in different squares. You know, in Abuja is Eagle Square. Yeah. I think it's Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos. You have different places in Owerri, in Calabar, in Kano, in Kaduna. You know, people will be marching and they'll be saluting the government.
Solidarity song.
Solidarity songs and so on and so forth. But, well, I really don't know why we usually do that along the public sector, because the public sector is responsible for less than 2% or less than 3% of the entire labor force of Nigeria. Most of the job are SMEs, you know, these IT guys, the guy gauging tire, call for organizers, you know, somebody selling things by the roadside. They are all workers. So it's a day for them to celebrate and to reflect. Am I earning decent wage? That is the question. Am I being on salary? I imagine what states that have not been paid for 6 months, or states that for 2 years have been earning 50% of their salary, would be celebrating. I wonder what they will be told. We are paid, Nigerians are paid 18,000 minimum wage. You know what that means? $50 per month. $50 a month. Now, $50 a month is a far cry from what is required for you to live above poverty. To even be in poverty, you must earn $2 a day, which is $60 a day. You are extremely poor, $60 below. But Nigeria, legally, the minimum wage is $50 a day, which means as many as those that are living below, that are in the minimum wage, they are already very poor. Yeah. Not wonder why the world recently say 89% of our population is poor and are living below poverty line. So I know that government is planning to set up committee. I think committee is set up already to review minimum wage. But that may not be the right decision. Maybe as conversation goes on, I will say why I think I have strong reservation against, say you are increasing minimum wage. Labor is saying give us 65. I think 66,000, 66,000 thereabout. You know, is that really what?
Well, let me just quickly read what the Nigerian Labour Congress said. This is what he said yesterday, that it was ready to battle the federal government to increase the living conditions of the nation's workers through increment of their wages. I think that is paramount in its call. It said here that the Nigerian workers marked the 2018 Workers' Day nationwide, and the NLC president, Comrade Ayuba Oba, said that he's urging the workers in the country to be ready for the battle for a better living and welfare of workers. According to him, government will not easily bow to workers' demands unless there was persistence on the part of workers. So, salary increment, and then to ensure the welfare of the workers, it's what is like paramount for the Labour Congress.
Well, I've not been around for a long time in this world, but since I've been around, I've seen all manner of increments in some persons. It's increment in salary, it's been increment in salary, labor, and labor have sub-union, where you have ASU, NASU, NAT, SANO, you have Medical Doctor Association, you have everybody has been acting on increment. The question we should ask ourselves is, has there been any difference? I think 2011, minimum wage was increased from 9,000 to about 18,000. What really changed in 2011 till 2018? You know, we expect that labor will suddenly be living beautiful life, great life. Nothing changed. So we see, why are we always asking for minimum wage? Because the managers of economy have not done well. So school fees has increased more than double. Price of petrol is now more than double. Price of rice from in 2011 till date is about ×3. Price of transport is more than double. Even for women to make up is more than double. To make your hair is more than double.
Interesting.
Price of everything has doubled. Now, what do you think we need to do? What happens to healthcare? For me, I think what Labour is asking for is genuine, but it's not the right way to go. Because you have tried it over and over again. You know, doing the same thing and wanting a different result is a classical example of madness. What I think Labour should be asking for today from government is, we want you to give all our children free education. We want you to equip our primary, secondary, and university system. We want government to provide power supply, because you see, when you provide...
Should that fall under welfare?
Welfare is never classified by Labour. Labour has always, if you have followed Labour argument, they have brilliant guys in Labour. They've always shouted, we want increment in salary and welfare. The welfare is what is common good to all Nigerians. It goes beyond Labour. It affects their wives, their husbands, their children, their relatives, their enemies. But government has always answered the first request called salary and neglected welfare. And because all human beings are selfish in a way, once you see what affects you the most, you want to ignore the rest. Guess what? This is what happens in economics. When your salary is increased, you go to the marketplace with more money. That means your demand increases while supply is relatively constant. What happens to price of commodity? It goes up. That has implication in inflation. So inflation increases. CBN will come with several policies to bring treasury bill, to bring bond, to take away from your money, giving you very small interest at the end of the day.
If I understand what you're saying, if there's increment in salary, then somehow it influences inflation.
Of course, and it will be spiral in nature. Because now I don't work for government, you work for government. We buy in the same market.
Perhaps.
You are willing not, as example, I know you work in Human Rights Radio. You know, you want to buy, for instance, say a module of Gary, you know, which is, I think, what a lot of Nigerians consume. And you have more money. And, you know, demand will increase. And when demand increases, it's supposed to stimulate supply. But when capacity to increase supply is limited in itself, what happens to price? So people will still want to get the money, and they still want to sell the same thing to make more money that is available. So because there is increase in money supply, particularly to a certain market, price will go up. This has happened years and years and years again. What I think government should do is not to just give labor salaries or wages, is to improve life of labor. Where do you spend your money as labor? You spend your money to fix your car because the roads are bad. Why don't you fix the road? Then you can save money you would have spent on your car. You spend your money to buy diesel or gas or petrol to fuel your generator. Why don't you fill power supply so that what is paid to you will be enough? You spend your money to take your children to school. In some cases, you borrow because you want to take your children to school. Some of them send their children abroad. Why don't you build good, quality, qualitative, and quantitative education in Nigeria? And it is relatively free for people. Germany is doing it. University education is almost free in Germany. I think it's free. In several countries in Europe, education is relatively free. Can you make that available? Budget almost 26%, not just because you want to use it to pay salaries, but because you want to use it to build infrastructure and human capital for the people. So where do you spend money? See, the opportunity cost in economics is the true cost. It's more true that the money you paid, it is what you would have used the money for. If government can help reduce cost, the opportunity cost, the true cost, then labor with the same thing you earn, it suddenly will have more value. Because there are some things you will not spend money on. Now, what we have all agreed is that the roads are bad. There is no power supply. School fees is expensive. It's expensive to pay for medical bills. But assuming those things has been sorted, the same money you have, you can now use it to buy other things. Guess what happened? Living standard they want to achieve. Will it improve or not?
It will improve.
But it will not just affect only labor. It's now going to affect a lot of people. It's going to affect labor. It's going to affect their grandmother in the village. It's going to affect their friends. It's going to affect their enemies. Then government will have a lot to do. So the pressure is nice, but beyond the pressure, doing the same thing and expecting different results, it really does not work.
So aside the fight for salary increment and welfare, what else can labor do to help, in national economic growth if, the salary increment in itself will not solve the
Productivity.
problem?
Countries work because people work. People work at work. People don't show up in the office by 10 a.m. People don't close by 2 p.m. People work. If you see countries that work, check their workers. Their workers is the key. Now, when I say labor, I don't mean civil service, or I mean workers. Private sector, civil service, those guys work. Now, look at some sectors that have tremendous, phenomenal performance in the last couple of decades. You want to check out what is happening in the oil sector, people that work in the oil sector, how they work. You want to check out what has happened in Nigeria, particularly during the period of consolidation. You want to check out what has happened in some sectors that has really, really, really performed. It is because though the owners of the businesses are not with them, in a bank, it always feels as if the owner of the businesses is with you. That is, you want to respect yourself. You want to work according to code. If you see any organization where people come by 10 and people are not loyal to the system, they brought rotten culture into the work system. System that is already dysfunctional, you now brought rotten culture to it. The only direction it can go is that one trend. So for me, labor should charge workers. Now the labor authority should charge workers in private sector, in public sector, to work at work. And this is the only way you can guarantee. But motivation. Other motivation is now very important. You cannot ask somebody who was trained maybe in the 70s to compete with the current reality of 21st century. Not the 21st century, you are in the second decade, towards the end of second decade of 21st century. But the man was only trained in the 70s. Now, it does not have platform to compete. It does not have the required knowledge to compete. Now, what do? You train, you retrain, and you untrain what you have done in 1970 because they are no longer relevant. Yeah. That's the reality of today. So labor is good. I celebrate with labor. I'm a worker myself, so it's good news to us. But what will make the difference in the coming period is Nigeria has the largest economy in Africa. China has the largest economy in Asia. Germany has the largest economy in Europe. United States has the largest economy in America. Which of these countries do you want to live in? You want to live in America? Now, watch all of them. Check the GDP of this country. Check the per capita income of this country. Check it of doing business in this country. Check Human Development Index of this country. Nigeria scored lowest, poorest, and lowest. Why? Because
that's the question.
We don't work at work. Work starts from the presidency. The position is not a show, is not for show. Somebody made comment on what I posted in 2012 about Nigeria economy. And the guy said, very sad, not one thing has changed positively. And I looked at all the indicators I wrote on my Facebook account in 2012. The only thing that has changed is exchange rate. And guess what? Then it was 165, now it's 360. That's the only thing that
and
changed.
It's not a positive
Inflation
change.
is still double digit. Unemployment is still very high. Youth unemployment is even much higher. So for me, people should get to political office to work. People should get to civil service to work.
So how can labor partner with government at this point?
Well, I really don't see the kind of partnership between cat and rat, because labor is another force. Media is the fourth arm of government. Labor should be the fifth arm of government. So I don't expect such partnership. Yeah, labor should contribute they should make their contribution to national development. Because you look at factors,
especially as it concerns the economy.
Exactly. When you look at the even economic factors, you see land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. The one that you cannot do without is not entrepreneur, it is labor. Because you can be entrepreneur, start alone. But labor can come together and do something. So very importantly, you now go to labor and capital. Even inside capital, you still have human capital, which is the knowledge. Knowledge from who? Knowledge from labor. So it is when labor, we have skilled, we have huge labor force. But most of this labor force, the complexity of the economy and their mind is very low. If it is not very low, somebody designed Facebook. somebody designed the computer, the microphone I'm using. Until a woman, most of the screen, 80% of the global demand for phones, particularly Android phones, was designed, produced by a woman in China.
Wow.
Currently the richest woman in the world. So knowledge, which is what is required for labor, is not a function of gender. It's a function of sense. And you know the truth, for you to know how strong our labor is, check our exports. What do we export to the rest of the world? We export raw cotton. What we love to do in Nigeria, particularly if you are a middle class person, you finish from university, the next thing you want to do, you are looking for a job. Or you are carrying file, you want to be a consultant, you want to work with civil service. If two Nigerians travel to America, one Nigerian and somebody from Asia, let me say Nigeria, an African and another person from Asia, and this survey has been carried out over this time and again.
Okay.
The African man wants to get to America or Europe and work. The Asian man wants to get to Europe and get people to work. Years after, the African man will find himself working for the Asian man. They have the same opportunity, they got to the same place, but the rigorosity of their mind, the complexity of their thought, how knowledgeable they are is what they can produce. The truth is that if we both have knowledge of how to disappear and appear, when we are going home today, we won't pay someone transport to go. We'll perhaps disappear and appear somewhere else. But because we don't have the knowledge, the question labor should ask is, what is the quantity of knowledge available? And if the knowledge is not big enough, then we cannot change so much of, we cannot. So now, all the things you have seen in Nigeria can be quantified by the knowledge available to Nigerians in Nigeria. And what you have seen in United Arab Emirates and Israel, it is the knowledge available in those two countries.
So how do we get to put this knowledge to good use? I mean, how do we acquire it if we have not even acquired it?
Yeah, well, training.
Okay.
Training, a country, I think within South Africa or in Southern Africa, Botswana, that country is high-income country. The population may not be much. Another country in East Africa, Rwanda, if you give a policeman bribe, he may likely shoot you, or I'm sure he will arrest you, because it is a taboo for police to collect bribe from you.
So that's more like a mindset thing.
Exactly. But mindset comes by demonstration. A culture, we can build a new culture, even in the
Yeah, because I think our culture has been for us to go to school, come out and look for a job, not to come out and be innovative.
And not just come out and look for a job. Come out and, you know, we have this proverb that says, little work, plenty pay. Those are culture, statement of lazy people. Little work.
So our president was not wrong, by the way.
It might not be wrong, but
completely.
The platform where he said it, it wants to demarcate us, which is the truth. Today is Workers' Day. You are here, I'm here. You are here.
I would definitely not want to be called lazy.
Because if you are not here, if you are lazy, you will not be here.
True.
And you're doing a great job. But if you are not here, what happens to this presentation? People listening, people watching on Facebook, they will not have the opportunity.
True.
So people should learn that countries work because there are tough decisions to be made. Leaders take tough decisions, followers are willing to bear through. Not because it is enjoyable, but because they know for their country to be in the map of the world, on people's mind. Now, everybody's country is in the map of the world, but they are not on people's mind.
True.
But to be on people's mind for good reason.
There has to be something attractive.
There has to be something attractive. Something really attractive. And you see, Nigeria is not the big country that, before now, when you mention India, the only thing that came to people's mind when it comes to India in the 80s and 90s is magical power. Magical power.
What we see in their Bollywood, yeah.
But today, and their ladies, they call it shori shori. That's what their women do. But today, when India is mentioned, what comes to mind is ICT. And there is no country that has that as much as India. Not even America. ICT, developing apps, you want something cheap? Oh, come on. Before now, what comes to mind about China is fake product. Anything fake in the world, China will fake it. But today, what you refer to as a production hub of the world is China. Before now, South Africa is known as a country of slaves. But not anymore. If you want to see freedom fighter, they ask you to go to South Africa. Countries have changed their stories. Nigeria can change our own story.
How can we begin?
We can begin by first agreeing, and agreeing that this problem can be solved, irrespective of whose soil is gone, to irrespective of who is in power. Not until most of our leaders know that, I'm here to serve the people. Whether you are Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or you are from the north or from the south, it really does not matter. What matters is, how will Nigeria be 4 years after I've arrived, or 8 years after I've arrived? Or I may decide to even do 2 years and resign. Who says it cannot happen? Maybe you just want to come, give Nigeria blueprint, and let this project cross across states. Nigeria will be better when we start turning out the best entrepreneurs, best in Africa, best in sub-Saharan Africa, best in the world. That the whole world wants to come and use the hub. And the only place people are looking at is Nigeria. Guess what? That is exporting knowledge to the rest of the world. And not just knowledge, complex knowledge. When you export cotton, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can do that. It's nature that gave you the enablement to export cotton. But to convert cotton to fabric, my sister, is a lot of work.
All right, so as we mark this year's Workers' Day, what's your final advice?
Sober reflection, because labor is a component of factors of production. It's a major component of it. Unfortunately, because of another factor of production, thousands of people have lost their life in Benue, in Plateau, in Kaduna, and in several other places of this country. Some workers who are elders fight another workers who are farmers. Because of what? Land. My advice for authorities will be, we need to look at things that should have been done, which could be the Green Wall. If the Green Wall had been taken care of when the idea of Green Wall was mooted, and some other countries have resolved that, perhaps today what is known as ethnic cleansing by some people or clash by some people would not have been the case. But it's another opportunity for Nigerian government, for Nigerian workers, to do the right thing so that we can end the crisis that is right before us.
Many thanks to my guest today, Mr. Paul Alaje, who's an economist, for this insight, especially on the Workers' Day. I mean, you've said so much. I wish we had more time for us to talk. And then, unfortunately, too, we are unable to pick any calls. But thank you for being with us on the program today. And to the listeners as well, many thanks for listening patiently. And like I said, sorry we were unable to pick your calls due to time constraints, but hopefully we'll get another opportunity and we'll talk some more on X-Ray and many other programs that will bring your way right here on Human Rights Radio. My name is Ruth Usman. I'll see you soon. We are the joy of our nation.